I'm going to introduce you now to Stephen Murphy, who's going to do a couple of his poems, and I know you're going to enjoy them all. Stephen.
Hello. I might just get a drink, otherwise I'm going to have to stop kind of halfway through, if that's alright with you. Is this water free, by the way?
No, we paid for it twice.
That's €4, baby. How are you doing? I'm a wee bit nervous. I'm always a bit nervous at these things. I don't know why I actually do them. But I'm going to start with a piece called Kullin. And I've met Cullins in every town around the country when I travel around the place. And I think there's a warrior within us all. We just need to find it and point it in the right direction. It's a bit of a journey, but hopefully you'll go with it. It goes like this. Outside Supermax on a Saturday night, Kullin waits to pick a fight. Curry sauce fingers, fag in hand, muttering something no one can understand, he sways in his feet. Eyes half closed. Blue jeans, plaid shirt, sleeves rolled up to freckled elbows, he is ignorance personified. With the mighty Mac half tucked inside, a belly full of vodka and Red Bull. Didn't used to be like this. Half stoned, half pissed and fully loaded. Primed and ready to explode for no real reason, lashing out with all the insecurity and doubt that comes with getting wrecked too much. And using boozing as a crutch for hating other shite in life, the job, the kids, the house, the wife, the credit cards. Excessive loans, the tailored suits and 4G phones, the cars, the bars, the dingy clubs, the battle scars of old man pubs where songs were sang of heroes old. Poems recited, stories told of how the Fianna roamed the fields with pointed spears and rounded shields, and how one man of Ulster came to bear the great Cullin's name, and when he heard that name he knew that he was born to fight and do what others did for centuries. For Ireland's bit the injuries they wore as medals, heroes all and martyred all the ones to fall, he raised his glass and drained his pint, then stumbled out into the night determined out to pick a fight with swings, a left and then a right. His victim, just some random bloke who stopped to ask him for a smoke. He knocked him to the ground and kicked his pent-up rage of politics. He kicked again and felt a surge, an all-consuming primal urge of power coursing through his veins, a force restricted and restrained till now he saw the chaos caused. He turned to look, a break, a pause, just long enough to feel the crack. Then all was empty, darkness, black. When he awoke, inside a cell, a windowless, depressing hell of shit-stained walls, a concrete floor, a two-bit bed, a metal door, and visions of the night before. He felt the guilt, the shame, and swore that life must offer something more than sacrifice and blood and gore. That battles fought, the flesh alone could never cure the world nor hone the spirit's path to lasting peace. So when it came to his release, he focused then on other things, like who it was that pulled the strings that kept his fellow men enchained, and found one name of all remained, and more than others seemed ingrained in every dark and seedy lane that led him back with weighted facts towards the name of Goldman Sachs. He joined the dots and drew the lines. Through every major grand design, the central banks, the ECB, the Vatican, and treasuries of every country now diseased and lying crawling on its knees with outstretched hands and pleading cries for fairness in these trying times, as if their leaders weren't aware their people were all running scared, that surely someone would care, but no one did, or no one dared to raise a voice or to declare that this is war by other means, designed to starve the poor and feed a manufactured human greed where want had triumphed over need. And wanting found a common ground in every cityscape and town where men like him had spiraled down, whose lives like ships had run aground or drowned them in a sea of debt. An orchestrated plan to let the people freely spend and then pretend that it was up to them to pay the price for those who made the rules up as the game was played. Where market-based economies were traded as commodities, a simple plan to buy and sell and bet against the ones who fell, to win or lose. The banks still won, whatever way the wheel was spun. He saw it then, with open eyes, that this had long since been devised. To privatise the nation-state, while corporations lay in wait for those who could to emigrate before they came to lick the plate of all that once belonged to us. A fate derived from boom to bust, where boom was staged and bust was planned to form a cage around the land and squeeze the people by degrees, with ever more insane decrees that preyed upon a sense of shame. instilled by creed, that we're to blame for what's being played out in our name. Well, those who stop, who question, why are normal people, you and I, accountable for generations of free market speculations, are just denounced as ill-informed by those who countenance the norms of economic genocide, when systematic loss of pride and national identity has come to be an entity of global farce, a running joke, but in the darkness he saw hope alight itself across the land. As people came to understand that we've been fooled to think we're poor, but those who rule have made endure this policy of open theft that's left us broken and bereft. But Ireland isn't poor, it's rich. Our lakes and rivers swell with fish. Our oceans yield both gas and oil. Our farms are fields of fertile soil. Our water's fresh. Our air is clean. Our culture turns the planet green. Our authors known to those who read. Our actors shown on silver screens. Our forests still has sacred space to solace from the human race. Our pride of place and crack abound. Our scenery is world renowned. Our myths and legends date way back to places where they plant a frack were prehistoric ancient ruins of dolmens, castles, passage tombs adorn the sacred sites of old, that now are seen as bought and sold for promises of liquid gold. To those who see the dollar signs with no allegiance to the times when health was wealth that's been reversed in this apartheid of the purse. Yet still he came, with spade in hand, to till the glade and tame the land. With boot to spade at last he saw in every blade of grass and scroll, that all that's rooted in the earth will cling to life for what it's worth, while all that drifts upon the breeze will never truly be at ease. And when he sowed the seeds, he knew the years would pass before they grew, yet still he hoped that down the line there'd come a time where children climbed the branches of these buried seeds to pick the apples from the trees. Sorry, I mean that affectionately. Thanks. But some of you might have seen the original letter that I wrote to our beloved Taoiseach a while back, and he never got back to me for some reason. I'm not sure why. I was trying to be polite, but apparently it didn't work. So I wrote him a follow-up letter, which was equally polite, I think. But I'm going to give it a blast, just following on from kind of earlier on, really informative talks. It's a pleasure to be here and all that crack. Thanks for having me. But this is imaginatively titled Dear Enda Part 2. Probably should have come up with something better, but... Dear Enda, I wrote to you a while back, but you never did reply. I know you're really busy, so don't worry, man, it's fine. Sure, it can't be easy being Taoiseach of his plebs, but at least the Europeans are still ruffling your head. And it's good to know you're busy. But I'm pretty busy too. See, I have a little boy now, and he doesn't have a clue that his future on this island is in jeopardy because you have chosen to deny what's self-evidently true. In favour of an empire entirely designed to conspire to constrict us so that we're intertwined to a point where if we need to fart, we have to sign the forms and then send it back to Brussels as methane gas reforms. So please don't tell her, Merkel. But I farted twice this morning. I didn't really mean to, but it started without warning, but I hoped that she'd forgive me, as I'm fairly sure the reason was the German supermarkets now have broccoli in season. And I know I'm being facetious, but it's not too far removed from the specious declarations that are easily disproved with the basic understanding of a union as a whole, where a concept of demanding creates a construct of control. But power is a liquor some people just can't hold. It devours and embitters all peace within their soul. While I'm open to correction if there's something that I missed on the basis of reflection, I think Herr Merkel's pissed. Because she's drained the bottle dry, and she's still looking for more, and she's saying she's going to try to build the Europe we adore, where the Germans hold the cash while the rest of us all pay. But if Merkel had a moustache, well, you know the old cliche. I've been told I'm anti-Europe, but I don't think that I am. Sure, wasn't she the one who ran away and married Uncle Sam? They were living out in Malta near your man who can't be mentioned, in a mansion built by NATO's taste for military intervention. And I've always had this notion of a world where I've envisioned that invading other countries is an act of terrorism, where those who call the order should stand trial out in The Hague for the disrespect of borders, but it seems the rules are vague. The Western world dictate the terms of what they deem a crime, yet they always seem to summarise that what they do is fine. And you probably think such notions are idealist and naive. And in truth, you're probably right, but I'd like to still believe in a world where international law is made to be upheld as a rational code of ethics, but that myth has been dispelled in the way that wars are waged on the premise of a lie, while they label us in rage for our failure to comply. But I'm not some left-wing truant who's just anti-everything, or some neoliberal fascist who's entirely right-wing. I'm just a normal human being who still cares about this place, and a being called anti-statist, but it's simply not the case. I've just always found it better to use both my lungs to breathe, both my legs to walk, and both my eyes to see. And the truth of what I'm seeing is that this country's on its knees, and rather than the cure, you're still pushing the disease. And when you're questioned on these matters, you revert to fluency, a language left in tatters by the course of history. Ag níl mór an ghael gagan, is tá brónar an faoi sin. Ag Taoiseach an céir de thorla dochad faoin ó chin, de rafúi tú, the síocháin mar na fórda ar bás, is ní ráseans a géine faoin áileas sa rás. Whereas tusa Vicín Henry, Peladora truc a sé, a bhuaí sam na bhuaí a whisper sin cosúla dé, ach becumalum faoi sin, an mille sagat le bordel. Cén fág ar auto fósta fósta an príomhide sa scoil nar bhí tú, in all air an thorcéad píl ó bhuió, then the truc is the shéhlín nó mas féidir leat níos mó. To be honest with you, Enda, I still think that it's harsh to hear so many people who show up to every march declare you the worst Taoiseach that this country's ever had. It's as if they can't remember that the rest were just as bad. The problem isn't you. It isn't even Burton. It's a system that's designed to and confined to keep us hurting, while the masters of resources dot the I's and cross the T's in their psychopathic contracts like this TTIP. And I'm sure there's got to be days and nights when you must come to ask how the hell you came to land with such a massive task, for a teacher by profession who rose up the ranks and stuck to a Taoiseach in recession while the country's rightly up the creek and down the pan and round a knotted twist, while the people at the bottom simply struggle to exist. And as much as I would like to think that you are well intentioned, I still saw you in New York with your man who can't be mentioned. The way I saw you with Lagarde and every two-bit thief, acting the blackguard as if it's light relief to pretend that you're important to those who hold the strings, but you know you're just a jester in the courtyard of the king. Because the truth is, as I see it, that this island is abundant. I could call you a bollocks, but I think that it's redundant to just label people names for the sake of angry words, while the path remains the same for the masses of the herd. But I'd rather, as an island, if we sat down for a chat, to discuss some basic issues and the crux of where we're at. Because as far as I can see it, unless we hit reverse, the road to where we're heading isn't better now, it's worse. But I still believe in Ireland, though some may find that strange. I believe that as a people we reserve the right to change. I believe that underneath this web of core deceit, there's a movement of the masses who've begun to find their feet. And you and I both know that the masses on the move still possess the power to redress and to remove those who would oppress them from their plinth within the Dáil, whether Fine Gael or Labour, Sinn Féin or Fianna Fáil. And believe that we've been lied to, abandoned and abused, and denied the basic tenets of our sovereign right to choose, of the leaders of a union who just see us as a toy, at the mercy of their making and the whim of their employ. But look, I farted, so I'll finish, because the post is going to go. George Ara, the Norge era, is Ganaira Lincoln. Thanks to Brendan and Dave for asking me to come down here, and thanks to all of you for listening. I'm going to finish with this one. The last time I did this at a Right2Change event, Dave rang me and I was at the bottom of Stephen's Green, and I swear you were halfway through the speeches. So I landed when we had the young fella, and I remember like pegging it full tilt across O'Connell Bridge, pushing the buggy like ridiculous. Landed up on stage, it was like Father Ted landing at the Lovely Girls competition. So yeah, I was a bit scattered, a bit all over the place, but otherwise I would be nervous. Some fella said to me beforehand, "Fucking hell, isn't it great to see the people?" And I said, "Fuck that, man, I used to speak at this thing in an hour." But yeah, this is called Was It For This. If anyone's looking for me on Facebook or anything, it's s.a.murphy. And I should have brought some albums, but I didn't, so I'm not going to market you. But yeah, it goes like this anyway. This is for everyone who hasn't given up on this island, and thanks for listening. Was it for this? The pagans drove with woven baskets born of love, to worship at the altar of the harvest god Crom Dubh. As the sun rose up the reek and then set down the other side to summon pilgrims to its peak to come from far and wide. Before the Christians came to Ireland and proceeded to rename it, Croagh Patrick, as it stands today, will proudly they proclaim it as a place of modern pilgrimage and not the site of ancient heritage that history forgot. Was it for this? The Druids stood before the old gods of the trees and founded schools within their groves to learn the mysteries that lay buried in the branches and encoded in the leaves as the language of the earth written there for all to see. Was this why they came between the people and the great divine and shed the blood of mortal flesh to prophesy us through time? Was this the future they once saw? Was it this they had in mind when they foretold in days of old what's born can never die? Was it for the only empire in Rome that still exists, to confiscate our island, though some would still insist that we were never conquered, that somehow we escaped in spite of all the plundered land and the children that were raped? Was it the rules they teach in schools they claim were set in stone, that has rendered us like lambs to collapse if left alone, that now bring us back in droves to a church that we've outgrown, but are scared to leave or to believe we're better on our own? Was it for the famine, for the Irish Holocaust, that was rarely thus examined, but in truth the human cost was inflicted on our people by the British, and yet peace is supposed to be some pure and noble diplomatic feat? But Mandela fought for what is right and was called a terrorist. But the same people who in death have claimed his right to coexist was never left in any doubt nor disputed in the slightest, because the darkest stars that ever were in death will shine the brightest. Was it for Biffo, citing Lisbon as the only show in town, inviting Europeans to kick us while we're down, inciting fear amongst the people in need of some relief from the systematic slaughter of a nation's self-belief? Was it for drum and bow in Anglo, picking figures from their arse, singing Nazi anthems to elucidate the farce of both the major parties, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, for pretending key decisions are still made within the Dáil? Was it for this? Some keepers of the peace have forgotten the translation of An Garda Síochána, or was it infiltration that has set force upon the course of corporate racketeering at the expense of innocence for private profiteering? Well, the greatest crime there's ever been on this island is ongoing, as the IMF still strip us clean and bare despite our knowing that their crimes are somehow normalised and accepted as deserved by the dogs within our government and the masters that they serve. Was it for the US flights of extraordinary rendition, stopping off at Shannon on the way to their perdition, as if it's nothing more than a casual decision to be complicit in the torturing of innocent civilians? But instead of pushing peace, we imprison the protesters and determine the release at the whim of the investors who have bought and sold this island for the promises of oil in pipes they plan on laying on what once was farming soil. But the cows are gone, and the people are gone, and the farms are left to fail. Now they probe the seas for oil and gas, the lakes and land for shale, while the sycophants and the psychopaths clap backs within the pale, with an onus and the bonus for the speedy fire sale over water and electric. They could both be ours for free, with a slight recalculation of our own priorities. If instead of paying billions for a debt we never owed, we invested in renewables and let the future flow. Was it for the lattes with ciabattas and goat's cheese? For the double mocha frappes, sculpted quiffs and skinny jeans? For the oh my gods that fuck my lives, the you don't understands, that like you knows, that BFS, that let's make dinner plans? Was it really for the hipsters, or are they just a glitch? In the evolutionary motherboard, a momentary twitch that normally exists in every generation but is usually ignored by righteous indignation. Was it for this? The proclamation was read out upon the steps. For this spire defamation that bell-end Bertie left. They cast shadows over bullet holes and pillars that remain, standing by the GPO where the volunteers were slain. For this, the Fianna marched across the mountains and the bogs. For this, we killed each other for the right to label gods. For this, we raise our children just to watch them up and leave as another generation educated and deceived. Or was it for the moment where you finally realise that all that really matters is what's right before your eyes? The simple understanding that come whatever else, you'll never know another as you learn to know yourself. And even though we come to love with everything we are, the truth is every one of us has once been battle-scarred, and the purest love that still remains is written in that kiss before we fall asleep at night that says, it was for this. Cheers. Like, you can only say so much. The importance of this movement, and I'm a cynic, could you tell? And entirely sceptical that enough people are on board for the outcome of the next election to be the way we want it to be. But what's important, elections are a sideshow to movements, and it's important for the movement that this grows. Because more and more people are joining, more and more people are seeing the need to stand up for ourselves. And with respect to Brendan and to Dave for organising the Right to Water and Right2Change group, it's an honour to be part of it, and it's an honour to see my people starting to fucking stand up for themselves and be counted.
What do you say after that? The first time I seen Stephen speak was outside the GPO when he delivered one of his poems, and all I can say is the hair on the back of my neck stood up.